The Know Your Gear podcast.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, episode 342. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday. Let me just move this mic a little bit. Sometimes I need to adjust stuff. I adjust it and then I go, I'm ready, and then I'm not ready. All right, we have a lot of things to talk about today. So many cool things to talk about this week. You guys have been sending out some great questions. As always, if you want to send a question that might get highlighted on this show or in a video, you can send them to www.knowyourgearpodcast.com, where there's a little icon or whatever, a little button somewhere on there that says, hey, ask a question. And so if, eventually we get to a lot of them. We can't promise everything, but we can, I do get a bunch. And there's a bunch that came this week I'm going to be using today. So also, if you're new to hanging out live, start your question with a question mark first. You can also super chat as well. And moderators are also the people in the blue ink, so to speak, with the blue wrench, are also looking for questions and sending them to me as well. In fact, I'm bringing up their little special screen right now. I say special screen. It's not special. It's just WhatsApp. All right, and then as always, this show is sponsored by Patreon and channel members, and it has been for 342 episodes. So I want to thank you for having the channel covered, man. You guys have been great. It's awesome. All right, we're gonna get in some stuff. As I want to hit some early riser questions. I want to hit a bunch of topics and some exciting stuff. And let's just get with the first question, which was Southpaw 007 says, would the type of metal base plate on a Telecaster bridge pickup make a difference in tone as long as a ferrous metal? Okay, so the answer is yes, the base plate makes a difference. But so I don't trigger the people like, there's no way. It's a small difference. It's super small. Negligible, in fact, I would say. So if you're not familiar with the Telecaster design, the bridge pickup in a Telecaster guitar is mounted directly into the bridge. The bottom of a Telecaster pickup, a lot of times people are confused and think it has a copper plate at the bottom. It doesn't. It's a steel plate that's copper covered, right? Which is important because the copper wouldn't be magnetic, but be able to be magnetized, but the steel is. So basically the base plate of the pickup is and the way that it works with the rest of the bridge and stuff has an effect. To give that example, a guitar player that I highly respect, G.E. Smith, if you guys know G.E. Smith from tons of things, but of course a lot of people just know him from being on Saturday Night Live. He had, I believe he doesn't have it anymore, but he had a signature model. He might still have it. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Signature model with Fender, and one of his modifications is he doesn't have a traditional Telecaster bridge. He has like a stubby bridge that doesn't touch the pickup, and there's reasons for that. Some pickup manufacturers will forego that base plate. Dimarzio pickups is one. They have a version of the pickup with a plastic base plate. So, and it's supposed to change the magnetic field, which could change the tone. This is one of those things where we have to really be clear because not everybody's on the same level watching the show, okay? So some people are beginners, some people are more advanced, and I don't want to confuse beginners. When we say it makes a difference, I mean like on a scope, through the scientific evidence of magnetic fields that changes the field, and therefore if the fields change, things will change. In an A-B comparison, you might even hear a subtle difference. So in that question, yes, it makes a small difference. But would I, like if a company sent me a Telecaster pickup and it was like, it didn't have a steel base plate and I was like, this is not going to be the tone. No. In fact, so much so, that Fender also used to make, in the 60s, they used to make Fender Stratocaster pickups that had steel base plates. And that's essentially what they were trying to do, change that magnetic field because the slugs would touch the plate. I make a set of pickups called the Copperheads, and only the bridge has that base plate. And a lot of people are confused by that sometimes, and it's been a real tough thing for me to explain. A lot of people think I'm trying to simulate a Telecaster pickup. That's not what I'm doing. I'm increasing intensifying, I should say is a better word, the magnetic field so that the bridge pickup, I became really fixated on on a Strat bridge pickup that doesn't sound thin. And the biggest way to fix that, usually besides a humbucker or a mini humbucker or something like that, is to either design the bridge pickup on a Strat to be more like a P90 by design, or to basically make it more powerful. Obviously, if it sends more signal to the amp, the guitar player is going to perceive the more as fuller, as bigger, right? Because it's pushing the amp a little harder. But I don't like it when the bridge pickup, when I'm using single coils, I don't like the bridge pickup to break up the amp more than the neck or the middle. I like them to be very stable. So I didn't do anything different than anybody else. I just have, as you guys know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pickups. I wish I was kidding, because it just almost seems stupid sometimes. And through my travels, there was two particular single coil pickups that I thought were really interesting. And I thought, what if I put those together? What would happen? And I put them together one day and I decided I love it. And that's what's in most of my Strats in my single coil guitars. And for that reason, it's just so by design to increase the magnetic field. It creates, like I said, I've explained this before, it creates in your mind what I want you to picture as if there's 6 Alnico slugs. I want you to picture the magnetic fields of being like a flame coming off a match or a lighter, right? Each magnetic field is coming right above the slug, and then when you put that metal plate on the bottom, and then of course solder it, and more importantly, if you guys ever try this, you've got to put something in between the slug and the plate. It's very important. You can use a piece of tape, you can use glue, you can use anything, but there has to be a barrier between the two. Anyways, when you put that plate on the bottom, now I want you to picture a weaker, not even anything close to a strong magnetic field, like a big oval coming around the pickup. And those two fields kind of just change what gets, kind of sent to the amplifier from the string. So yeah, so the answer to your question is yes, but like I said, with all that explained, that it's not a huge thing. Okay, so let's go into this. This is actually segue, because this was a question sent in, and it was funny because not only did you guys send it in to me, I don't know why, I'm going to explain in a second, but also a ton of my friends were sending me text. So the question though that I kept getting asked is incorrect. The question, so let me clarify it. The question was, did I see this week that Gibson is suing Dimarzio pickups? And that it was so concerning to me because it was phrased that way. 3 different people phrased that to me that way. Gibson is suing Dimarzio pickups. And that is not correct, so you guys know. And so I'm going to say a couple things, as I always do. I always be upfront with you guys, tell you guys the truth, also tell you my bias, which I'm going to tell you in a second, but also tell you why I got to put a little disclaimer in what I'm going to say. So the first, of course, is the bias. I consider Larry Dimarzio a good friend. I love Dimarzio pickups, and so obviously I have a bias towards him. The other bias is, what I'm about to talk about is this dispute between Gibson and Dimarzio. I also want to disclose that, as you know, I own part of a small guitar company, and we have also worked with Gibson in the recent year. Work with, in other words, an illegal way, like, hey, we want to make a design. We don't want to infringe on your trademarks. We would like permission to do that, and they gave it to us. Now, I didn't want to have to tell anybody that piece of information. It's way too premature, but I need you to know that what I'm about to talk about it is a predicament from me, because I don't really need to piss off Gibson, and I don't want to upset my friend. But I'm going to tell you what I know, and this is the most important part I'm going to tell you. On purpose, because I got hit so many of these damn texts and emails this week when it popped, I have not talked to Larry all week. Normally, I wouldn't say I talk to him every week, but almost every week for a few hours. And so this week I, on purpose, didn't talk to him because I didn't want to know anything because of what I'm going to tell you now. So here's what's going on with Gibson and Dimarzio pickups. Gibson's not suing Dimarzio. Dimarzio pickups politely asked Gibson to stop using some of their trademarks. Okay, now that's actually, and I'm even already messing it up now because I just want to make sure. That's not even true. They actually politely called and talked to Gibson Guitars. When I say Gibson Guitars, of course, I'm talking about the people who run Gibson Guitars, the top, the head of the food chain, and said, hey, you're using some intellectual properties that are ours. And hey, we don't want you to do that, or pay us a royalty, or work together, or maybe we'll provide them for you. So some suggestions were made. Now, obviously, I know that to be true because that was something that I was made aware of that happened. And that's all I know. That's the only communication I know about that particular situation. Then, subsequently, a few weeks later, right, Gibson obviously made the news by requesting, again, not suing Dimarzio, they're requesting the courts, they're petitioning the courts, whatever the legal is. Like I said, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to use probably the correct terminology, but I know what's going on, which is they're telling the courts, they're asking the courts to telling them that, hey, saying, hey, Dimarzio's had these, obviously, trademarks for a long time, one from like early 80s, so we're talking 40 years now, and the other one, again, about 40 years now, and that basically we want you to basically make them into the public domain. We talked about this last week when we talked about the fact that, you know, Fender came at some companies with some cease and desist, and those companies did not cease and desist. They fought back, and now the Strat body shape, the Tele body shape, the P body shape is public domain. So essentially what Gibson's doing is saying this, they're doing the same tactic as what was done to Fender. They're saying, you know, hey, look, we don't think we should have to pay, and I'm not speaking for Gibson, by the way. I'm just giving you what's I'm interpreting from everything I'm reading. They're saying to the court, we don't think we should either have to pay a royalty or be prevented from using a double cream pickup bobbin. If you guys don't know what's going on, everybody kind of caught on to it. Gibson started making a pickup since double cream bobbins, pickup humbuckers, the two cream pickups used as a humbucker, is a trademark of Dimarzio pickups, and so is the word paff, which is a joke I've been saying on the channel for years, which everybody has fought me on, which is I've been saying for years that I call it the paff, and they're like, why is this idiot calling it paff? And I'm like, well, when I refer to Dimarzio pickups, I call them paffs because it is a legal name that they trademarked and owned. Paff. It's not P.A.F. patent applied for and, you know, it abbreviated, it's PAF. And so anyway, so Gibson is saying, they petitioned the courts and said, hey, look, we want you to basically reverse these trademarks or whatever whatever they do that makes the trademarks go away and makes it so that they can go and do what they want. Now, this is funny to me because I have a conflict mentally on this. Here's my conflict. I've said before many times, like if somebody said, hey, what would you do if Harley Benton knocked off my stuff or whatever? And I'd be like, I don't care, right? Because ultimately I care about the customer, right? And also I'm not a big company with millions at risk and hundreds of employees at risk. So it's not something I can factor into my logic for whatever my problems are. As I've told you before, I've trademarked my logo and I let people literally, which obviously screws my trademark, people copy this shirt. In fact, there's probably more fake versions of this shirt out than real ones. But keep in mind, I didn't trademark it to stop anybody from making my logo. I trademarked it so no one would come after me and try to take the money I had made from making my logo, right? And so I was just protecting myself. Ultimately, I say you guys all the time, thank you guys if you buy merch, but also if you want to make a version of this shirt yourself, because you can do it on a Cricut machine or whatever, you're never going to get any grief from me. Just do it as you will, right? I don't care. And again, I know that legally some attorney watching this is like, no, you're not supposed to say it out loud. I don't care. Just don't care, right? I'm just going to vigorously fight my right to be able to use it for myself. Okay, so that all being said, I just want to say that's why it's a different situation for me. However, here's where it gets tricky in my mindset. Although I publicly have said that in the past, and I stand by that sentiment, which is, you know, I think trademarks should be more for about customers and less than businesses. And as long as the customer's protected and isn't buying fake things, which in this case isn't going to be the case, because if they were to buy a double cream Gibson pickup, they don't believe they're buying a Dimarzio. In my opinion, they're probably not. They probably think they're still buying a Gibson pickup. I just think it's funny that a company who loves to sue everybody and try to stop everybody from using their intellectual trademarks in any way, shape, or form, which is something they legally have to do, because if you don't vigorously fight to protect your trademarks, you can lose them. I think it's funny that a company would be so cavalier to be like, yeah, well, when it's somebody's turn on us, we're going to just pull the same crap that when we sue people, they pull on us. It's just funny. I will say this on a side note. I hate that stuff becomes the discussion of the channel, but I know it's something of interest that we all interested in. I'd love to just talk more about guitars for a second, so we'll go into guitars in a second. But what I'd also like to say is, and this is a dig towards Gibson, but it's just how come every time Gibson makes a news, it's a lawsuit. I used to like, I mean, it just seems like it seems like Gibson has more discussion about lawsuits and court cases than they do about guitars, rock and roll, and having fun. And it just kind of, that sucks. But so you guys know, I just wanted to clarify one thing, which was hey, everybody said, did you see that there's Gibson is suing Dimarzio? And that's not what's happening. Like I said, Dimarzio asked Gibson to stop, and Gibson's now petitioning the courts to basically tell Dimarzio, or to get their stuff put in Dimarzio's stuff into public domain, so Gibson can just use it as they wish. There you go. So there you go. I hope that helps understand stuff. So let's see. Any questions or some things on that before we go any further? Let's see. All right. I don't. All right. Shiznit says, got double creams from Stu Mac. They put covers on them to get around the trademark. Yeah, they're not the only ones that had done that. Back in the day, that was a real known that Seymour Duncan pickups, if you went to the custom shop, you wanted double cream, they would send you a pickup with a chrome cover that wasn't soldered on, and you could just pull it off, right? So there you go. But so, and some companies do make double cream pickups, but they just pay a royalty to Dimarzio pickups for the use of that trademark, right? I mean, trademarks don't necessarily mean you can't do something. There can be an arrangement, which happens all the time, which is why I tell you guys all the time, when you see, this is one of the things that is really a thing that gets really confused out there. When you see companies like Mighty Might or other companies making a Fender style neck where the headstock looks like the Fender headstock and it says license, LIC Fender, licensed by Fender, I always try to explain to people that doesn't mean Fender is approving the quality of this product. They're not behind it. They're not saying it's as good as our quality. All they're saying is that licensed by Fender means a royalty was paid to Fender for use of this look or whatever, the headstock. And that's all that really means. So that's all the only thing you have to take away from it. So I even made jokes that if people copied my shirts, you could send me a royalty if you'd like, which is true. You could, if you want to send me $1 or whatever the hell you're making. There you go. Witchell says, can't they, this is what I was hoping for, good questions. Witchell, thank you, says, can't they just call it double creamish? Look, that's not how a trademark works. A trademark is not one thing. A trademark is what we call a secondary meaning. So I always use this analogy. I like it. You can't trademark the word American. It's too generic, and it doesn't make any sense. You can't trademark the word airlines. Again, too generic. All airlines are airlines. But American Airlines, as an airline company, gives it a secondary meaning, so therefore they trademark the name American Airlines. The same thing with that pickup, right? It's a two cream bobbins made into a humbucker. You get how it's a secondary meaning. He created a secondary meaning, and that's how he got that back in the 70s. Gibson, I read all the stuff on it, obviously, because I was really curious. Gibson's basically saying, like, he should have never been granted the trademarks in the first place because of the fact that, it's kind of like it slipped through, because obviously Gibson originally owned the double cream pickups and stuff. But however, how he got the trademark, I believe, was because Gibson, although did make double creams, they weren't really putting them in the guitars. They were covering them up, and they weren't really, it was other guitar players that were kind of doing it. It's an interesting case. Again, I don't want this to make this a legal channel, especially since I'm a dumbass and not a lawyer, right? Channel. So like I said, it's just because it was in the news and you guys were asking about it, I thought it'd be interesting. And of course, I want to clarify the one thing that wasn't accurate, which is the who's suing who thing. Okay, so all right, let's go to the next question. The next question, which is Michael Rosa says, "Hey Phil, quick question. In what order do I clean my fretboard?" Oh, okay, interesting. Polish the frets first and oil the fret. Okay, so I'm not going to ask put the orders. I'm going to ask what he's asking. So you got to polish the frets, okay? You got to oil the fretboard, and he wants to know what order to do that in. I would definitely polish the frets first, and there's two reasons why I would do that. Okay. One, because when you polish the frets, if you're using any of I have a video about polishing frets. If you use any of the type of what am I having trouble? The Gorgamite, or any of those type of polishing compounds, or the polishing cloths that Dimarzio makes, or 3M. As you rub the frets and polish them, that dirt, whatever you want to call it, it's not dirt, but the sentiment, whatever the stuff will get into the fretboard and make it dirty. So you're going to want to clean the fretboard anyways. So that's why I would do that first. If you use a polishing wheel, which is what I use with a Dremel, when you do the polishing wheel, one of the things you have to do is make sure you don't overheat the fret. And one of the things that you don't want to do the oil the fretboard first is that when you polish the frets, what can happen is you'll see the oil kind of get real hot because it's into the fretboard, and it will boil out, and that's not a good thing either. So definitely do the polishing first. I would do the fretboard polishing first. Plus, I use, I'm very, like I said, when I use a fretboard conditioner or any kind of the oils on fretboards, I use it very sparingly, and I use it for cleaning purposes only, to rehydrate the fretboard. Just cleaning the fretboard with it will rehydrate the fretboard a little bit. It's, rehydrates probably an extreme way to explain what we're doing to the fretboard. We're really just making it look nice and trying to prevent it from drying out so bad that it will crack. So just a little bit of a fretboard conditioner or oil, and at the end. There you go. So sediment versus, do you sediment rather than sentiment? Nice. Okay. Let's see. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me read this real fast. B King Max says, why didn't you wind the pickups for Badlands? It's real simple. Badlands is guitars. I don't have any control of how many guitars is sold and will be sold in the future. And so you got to understand, when I wind pickups, the way I do pickups is just periodically throughout the year, I'm winding them. So every once in a while, as you guys know, because I sell out usually as soon as I load some in. So sometimes I do it different ways, I mean, sometimes I wind a few and then I put them on the website and they sell. Thank you guys for supporting that. And then sometimes I just go, well, I don't have anything to do next week. Or I have 2 days next week where I'm going to be open. I'll put like 4 in stock. And then that way if I get orders, then I'll do something those 2 days with them or whatever. So there's just no way. Right now, there's 150 Badlands guitars sold, which is 300 pickups essentially, right? And to add that to what I already do when I do some black stock pickups just wouldn't make sense. So that's why we did it that way. Plus, again, like I said, what's in the future, the more guitars that are sold, the more I would be stuck to the winding pickups. And so, black stock pickups is one of those things where, I did it because when I did the Great Guitar, is it the Great Guitar Build-Off? It's the Great Guitar Build-Off. I'm trying to think. It's the Great Build-Off. The Great Guitar Build-Off. If you guys remember, I entered that, and one of the things I did for that guitar was I wound some custom set of pickups for the winner. I shouldn't say the customer, but the winner. And after that, a ton of people reached out and said, hey, would you make me a set of pickups? And I said no, because I said in that video I made those pickups specifically for that guitar, that actual pickup that's in that guitar. That's a one-off set, essentially, besides a couple prototypes that I still have downstairs. And I said I'm not going to sell those. But then somebody in an email caught me off guard and said, hey, Phil, when you wind pickups, do you ever use them? And I said, oh, yeah, actually, all my personal guitars have the same set of pickups. And then that became a communication, and I sold him a set. Because I was like, he's like, can I buy a set? And I was like, yeah, sure, I sold a set. And then what happened was I didn't think he would tell anyone, but he told somebody, and then they emailed me and said, hey, my friend bought a set of pickups of you. Will you make a pickup? So I just started doing them as a side project. It's a way to do things. Like I said, I have, and I'm working currently with a way to mass produce them, but the mass produced thing, not only do the pickups have to be the same exact sound and quality, but they have to be a crap ton cheaper, right? Because otherwise, why do it, right? The whole point is I'm trying to eliminate the highest cost of the pickup, which is my time my personal time. That was okay. What else? Okay, so that made me just laugh. I don't know why it caught me off guard. Somebody goes, "It's snowing." It's like 75 where I live right now. So so wherever you're living, it's snowing. But here it's 75. I think it's 74. Okay, so Randall Vandergriff says, I got a Cort Sunset 2 for Christmas with TV Jones pickups. A lot. I think he means a lot of people. A lot of people said Cort is a cheap pawn shop brand. Oh, that's nice of people. Well, hopefully that's on a forum. If you have friends that talk like that, just don't hang out with them. Right? He says, why is guitars with Cort on the headstock overlooked and frowned upon? Well, people are dumb. So then we're all dumb. However, being dumb is not new. I'm dumb, okay? But what's new and getting more rampant is dumb people having strong opinions. It used to be you could just be dumb and you would say things, and people go as dumb. But now dumb people really are like, they have the strongest opinions. So let me explain Cort guitars to you in an important way. First of all, this is the 50th anniversary of Cort guitars this year. The person who started the company, he passed away this year. So you know. So his son has succeeded him. The thing that you need about Cort guitars, everybody kind of knows this. Like, hey, they make PRS SEs now. They do. They also make GNL's Tribute line. They also make Ibanez. They make Squires. They make Strandbergs that are $2,500. They make Schecters. They make all kinds of brands. I don't know the exact numbers. I probably should reach out and ask if you want to know. But I know for a fact that this year, in any given year, they'll do at least 1 million guitars. And that's for what I know for a fact. Do they do $2 million? Or what did I say? 2 million. Sorry, they do 1 million guitars. They build 1 million guitars. Sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked. So they build 1 million guitars a year. That's what I know for a fact. It could be 2 million, it could be 3 million, it could be whatever, but I know the word million is what starts it. So they make a lot of guitars for a lot of companies, okay? So when it comes to quality, they obviously have quality. Not to mention, if you're really into this and you know this like deep down, you know that for a long time they used to do Elric basses and they used to do Conklin's stuff, and they would do all kinds of cool runs from all kinds of boutique builders. And that was a thing for a while that they were doing that was really cool. In fact, it was one of my favorite things. Oh, the Cort Kerbo bass. Yeah, of course. Awesome bass, right? And Derek, thank you for bringing that up. And what's cool about that is Kerbo was, again, another small boutique builder. And these boutique builders were making these deals with Cort to make a licensed copy of their instrument. So Cort and quality are there. Okay, so if the question is Cort quality guitars, yes. Calling them a cheap pawn shop brand in the essence of a quality aspect, well, that's just dumb because it's not true. Not only because they make good stuff, but the proof is, SEs are one of the hottest selling guitars, especially like this year. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But also, obviously Strandberg and every other level of quality is that they can hit. Why Cort the brand isn't a great, like a reselling brand, or why you might find good deals on them used, is that Cort guitars, excuse me guys, I'm sorry, I'm just need some water. Okay, so Cort guitars is an in-house, it's referred to as an in-house brand. In other words, we know the average guitar player knows that Cort makes all these other brands, and that when Cort makes their own label brand, even though they've done some cool signature guitars like Matt Guitar Murphy's guitar, they've done some signature guitars, but when they do their own brand, it tends to be seen as generic almost, and the reason being is because it's not this brand that's heavily known. And what Cort's strategy for their own branded guitars is, so you know, which is very important, is they don't really go out there and do marketing hype, and they don't go out there and get the big signature artists, and they don't go out there and get all the big influencers, right, as a whole, and they don't do the big marketing push as much. I'm going to get to the second part of that in a second, because what they do is they go, look, we already know we're building a guitar. So if Cort builds a guitar for a manufacturer and that manufacturer sells it for $700, Cort knows that they can build that guitar because they built it for that manufacturer even better and sell it direct to you for $500 or $599. So 20-30% off what you paid for a name brand built in the same factory, but put some higher components and stuff in there. So a lot of times the people in the know that when you buy Cort, you're going to get a slightly better quality product dollar to dollar than the brand named one that Cort makes. It's right. Does it make sense? They put a little bit more in it. Now, Cort, though, like I told you, is now run by the son. And he's done a lot of things in the last couple of years that may change things. First thing that's important to mention is that they've started building amps, or I shouldn't say started, but they're really making amps now, and they're making a lot of brands amps. So they're getting in the amp market. But more importantly, they own Digitech. So they bought Digitech and brought it back. And the impression I got from Cortec is that you're going to see, and you're probably already seeing some YouTube videos, like some channels with Cort guitars. I should have one next year. I did a couple in the past. I'll probably have one coming soon, where they're going to be pushing, putting their brand out there, right? It's time for them to kind of step up and do the brand and kind of, get their brand out there more. And that's it. And kind of make more designs, their own independent, unique designs and stuff. But that's what Cort is, guitars. So quality stuff. But yes, the only critique that is definitely fair is, yeah, the resale on them are not very good because of the fact that they're not well known. But that's also why they're a smoke and deal when you see them used, because you're going to get a lot of guitar for the money for sure. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. Okay, these are early questions. Sometimes I'm funny the early questions. It goes, hey Phil, have you tried the new volume roller pedal by Black Mountain? So Black Mountain picks is my buddy Cole. I've not tried it. I saw it. In fact, I saw it, and Cole obviously showed me prototypes of it, pictures. He texted them to me. I had a little bit to help with that. When I say help, not in design and everything like the way, but I helped him kind of like navigate some of the people to contact to have some of the contractual stuff done. And because he reached out to me, I want to say 2 years ago. It's been a while. So 2 years ago, he was like, hey, Phil, the picks are doing great. The slides are killing it. I think I'm going to start getting in the pedal market. And you know what? I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to just say it, what really I did. So, he said, hey, I'm thinking about going overseas and having some pedals made. And I said, hey, you don't have to actually go overseas. There are a ton of amazing manufacturers in the U.S. And I call it, domestic outsourcing. And I said, and you can go through the U.S. and get that done. So I hooked him up some people and basically said, hey, these are the people to talk to and kind of do that. So the question is, have you seen it? I have seen it. It looks really cool. Probably eventually get one on the channel. I mean, I'm sure he'll want to send one out at some point, I'm sure. He says, but he asked if you can use it in the effects loop like I showed in my video and I talked about last week where you put a volume pedal in the effects loop. You absolutely can, buddy. It works the same way. He's really went over the top, out of his way to make a high quality product. So now, of course, I'm saying that without touching it yet, but I've been on the conversations for the last couple of years and I know what he's gone through to make sure it's right. So very good. Let's see, there is, okay, I'm sorry, I'm grabbing questions and seeing, why can't I see, right here, nope, wrong button. Okay, I have a couple of the moderators here. Oh, Amanda sent me a question, let me see. Thank you, Amanda. Amanda forwarded this to me. She said, it's from DDC 441, says, do you humidify your guitar room? I don't. I live in the desert and I'm tired of storing up my acoustics in bases with two-way humidity control. Room is consistently 30 to 40%. Can I store my Martins on the wall? Look, this is a tough thing to talk about because I don't want to give you advice that obviously could cause damage to your guitars. So you're going to have to come to your own decisions. And so a lot of times I'll give you advice because it's something obviously like a repair question. I've done it 1,000 times. I feel confident that this is something I don't really know a whole lot about. I don't know how to tell you like how to humidify your room. So I'm going to tell you what I do. This isn't advice to you to do the same thing, but it's just to know what I do. First of all, keep in mind I have mostly electric guitars. It's important. I probably, I have, well, any given time I could have 4 or 5 acoustic guitars visiting, but I own about 4 or 5 acoustics, and keep in mind, 1 or 2 of them don't really apply to having humidity issues. And we'll just keep it that easy. But what I will tell you is that I don't humidify my guitars because I'm in a dry climate even, which is even worse, because I've repaired so many acoustic guitars, and what I've learned repairing them is that basically the guitars have a problem when they're in a humid environment and they go to dry, or in their dry environment and go to humid. It seems to be like, it just, whatever environment you put them in, you just got to put them in and hopefully keep them in. You know, a lot of times the humidity control systems and the stuff that go in your case is about transporting acoustics, right? But also, you know, when it comes to lower priced acoustics that are laminate, they take a lot of abuse. You don't have to worry about humidity as much. When it comes to the more high-end Martins and Gibsons and Taylors and all, of course, all the boutique brands out there, they definitely need humidity. And you got to understand, in Arizona, I have repaired an insane amount of acoustics that came here from states like Florida. And, this is actually something that would be said to me often, which is a crazy thing to say. Often customers would come in and go, "Hey, I have an acoustic guitar and I was watching TV the other night and I heard this loud pop," and I go, "Oh, and your front of your acoustic cracked." And they go, "Yeah." And I go, "Yeah, it's just because it's dry here in Arizona and it dried out." And so you do have to humidify them, but I don't, because what I do is I pick my acoustics and then I kind of just, let them dry out, abuse them. I just abuse them. But I'm taking the chance that they might crack. So none of my acoustics have ever cracked. I've never had a personal cracked acoustic. So humidifiers and stuff is stuff. It's real deal stuff that you have to pay attention to. However, like I said, I don't. So I just kind of, when I buy an acoustic, I kind of, I go through it with a fine-tooth comb. That's really where all the videos started, with me taking the dental mirrors and my little scope and going through in there and looking at stuff. That's what I do when I buy them too. I'm like, I go through them and see if there's anything that I see as a potential problem in the future, and then I just start letting them dry out and see where it takes me. And yes, it's a little scary and it sucks. So hold on a second. Let me get out of this. Hold on. Okay. Quilted Maple says, buy an emerald carbon fiber acoustic. You'll thank yourself. I'm a huge fan of carbon fiber guitars. They will always not be as loud, and they will always be a little different sounding, but man, bulletproof. Gotta love bulletproof guitars, man. They're amazing. Trolls something Jatern, whatever it says, carbon fiber guitars sound horrible. Horrible, maybe. I don't know if horrible is the word. They don't sound, they're just not, they're not the same material, so they're going to sound a little different. But I actually prefer the sounds. Not all carbon fiber guitars, but to me, carbon fiber guitars do 2 things that I kind of dig, right? The bodies tend to be real bassy, but not loud, because, again, it just doesn't vibrate as much as a piece of wood. What I mean by, I shouldn't say that, because it probably vibrates more. I'm just saying it's not as loud, right? It's not projecting, but it's real bassy. And then because the hard neck, it's just really bright. It's just, so it tends to have this like a little bit of thump and a little bit of high tone. And I kind of like that playing it. There's just something cool about that. So is it my favorite sound all the time? No, but it's a cool sound sometimes. So there you go. Luke says rain songs sound nice. I owned a rain song for years. I loved it. So, okay, we're getting. Hold on a second. All right, let me go back to the core questions. We have. Karen Bassett says, "Hey Phil, what do you think is best bang for your buck? Buying a budget guitar and upgrading components, or getting a higher end model that has pretty much everything you want? Thanks." I really like the saying, you never regret buying quality. So buying a nicer guitar is never going to be a huge regret. I'm not saying that immediately because you won't regret it. It makes it easy to justify it. It's a lot of money, like I said. What I will tell you is this channel, the way it kind of is focused, especially, is that it's focused around two concepts when it comes to cheap guitars and upgrading them. And I'm inexpensive guitars, if cheap guitars upset you guys. One of the biggest things that I will tell you that I've said for years is that when you have an inexpensive guitar, one of the things that I watched, and I would caution friends, customers, right? Every time they come in for a repair, when they would go, they'd bring me this inexpensive guitar and, a gazillion dollars in parts and ask me to do all this work. And I'd always tell them, like, you're never going to get any of this money back, because if the thing you have to think about, more importantly, if you buy a $200 Harley Benton guitar and you take it to a repair shop and you have somebody modify the bridge and all the components and all the stuff in the pickups, keep in mind that the total cost of the guitar, let's say the total cost of the guitar, but let's say it's $200 for the guitar, $200 from components, we'll keep it easy, and $200 in labor. You have a $600 guitar, and keep in mind that $600 out of the $600, $200 of the value is labor that you can't redeem. You can't get that back. So 100% of that labor is lost, which is why I started going, well, I'll do videos showing people how to do some of the easy stuff that really it was in my mind, like, these are the things when I'm doing them, I'm like, I always felt like, man, I don't know why somebody's paying me to do this. They could do it themselves. Now, I get somebody paying me to do it because they don't want to do it, because they don't have time. But, some people do it. And like I said, if you're on a budget, you shouldn't be paying somebody heavy labor. You should learn to do something else. If you're broke, I don't want to say poor. My mom used to say poor is a mentality and broke's a situation. so I always tell people, I used to sometimes tell you guys that I was poor, and I go, I should probably say broke. I can hear my mom saying, no, just tell people you were broke. But when I was broke, here's what I understood. If you're broke, you need to learn to do as many things for yourself as possible, because you don't want to pay. You don't have the money to pay somebody to do it. So you got to learn to do it. Change your own alternator, right? Fix your own guitar, right? Do your own yard, whatever it is, right? Make your own meals, whatever it is. So same with guitars. If you're going to buy an expensive guitar, keep in mind when you do the modifications, if you learn to do the work part yourself, that's money in your pocket. And then I'm definitely all for it. But when somebody says, "Hey, I'm buying a Squire and I'm taking it down to I'll say Phil's guitar shop and I'm gonna pay him $300 to modify it," I'm like, I would have then maybe put it into buying a better guitar. The other thing I did on this channel, and I'm very focused on, is doing all of these what I call non-marring repairs. In other words, they're reversible repairs. They're modifications you can reverse out, which is why I'm so headstrong on, making sure you use a tuning key that uses the same hole size, keeping all your old parts, making sure that when you do modifications guitar, you can take those parts out and put the original parts back if you sell it. Max Guitar has a channel. He's a great guy. And he made a comment in a video that I thought was eloquently, beautifully put, where he said, I like to buy guitars that are used and modified because the guy who did it or the gal who did it gets none of their money for that. And he's absolutely right, which is why I always say, keep the old parts and make sure that whatever modification you do is reversible. And so a lot of times I'll focus on that because one, it's easier for you to do it if if it is reversible, because it means the parts are interchangeable, but also, again, it's a return on your investment. So this is a very long way to answer your question, but it's important because I think it's important to understand the answer to the question, which is better? Well, follow those rules I gave you. If you buy an inexpensive guitar and you buy parts and you modify it yourself, which means no other costs are entered in for labor, and those parts can be removed and the original parts put back on the guitar if you later decide to upgrade, and you can either sell those parts that you bought, they'll depreciate as well, but at least you get some of that money back. But also it's important that you can you can put those parts in the next guitar too if you want to keep them and do that stuff. So it's important that you can do it that way. I think that makes sense. But me personally, if somebody says, hey, do you think I should get a Squire and modify it or get a Fender, a nicer Fender? A lot of times I'll say buy the nicer Fender because, again, the bigger question you have to ask yourself is, you're really trying to stop churning guitars, right? When you talk about guitars, guitar players constantly buying and selling guitars, some are doing it because they want to, but a lot of them are doing it because they don't want to. They were calculating, trying not to do that. I really believe guitar players, I believe myself when I say it too, I believe guitar players, and they're like, I think if I get this guitar and I do this, I'm going to be truly happy, and this is the one. and because they're trying to figure that out, and so, when you churn guitars, when you keep buying and selling your guitars, you really understand that you got to minimize how much cost goes in that, unless you have the money to just throw it out the window and do that stuff. So that's my advice. The other piece of advice on that is, I think it kind of ties into your second part of your question, which is what you were saying was bang for the buck. But I thought there was a part. No, you didn't. You just were talking about bang for your buck. Sometimes people ask me about being more unique or custom, and that's one thing modifications are. But you can modify nice guitars too very easily. Make them a little bit more unique in your own. So that's just my suggestions. Like I said, either way you're good, but those are the pluses and minuses of doing that. Okay. Let's see. Hold on a second. There's so many questions, they like fly by real fast. Okay. All right, let's go on to, I'm sorry, I'm just reading some stuff and trying to grab a question, but let's go on to another subject that I got a lot of emails about and I wanted to hit, which was I got asked a lot if I saw the best-selling guitars this year for 2023 on Reverb. And so, yeah, I did. And of course, I'm interested in it, just like we talked about last year. So let's go ahead and share it. And Reverb did something really cool this year. And here's why I want to say that. Last year, if you recall, the big thing was the Silver Sky was the #1 selling guitar. The Silver Sky SE was the #1 selling guitar. And they broke it down just by total sales. And I said this comment last year. I said, the problem I have with this is that Reverb is combining all sales, which means are new or used. And used so in other words, one guitar could have been bought, then sold, then bought, then sold, then bought, then sold 3, 4, 5 times. And they're just going to, when they're capturing that data off their website, they're just going to show transactions, not guitars sold. So the terminology was something I was concerned with, which is, was the Silver Sky the #1 guitar by sales, like it sold the most units, or was it the most churn guitar? In other words, people just keep buying and selling these guitars. They didn't stick. This year, they did something really cool. Let me share with you what they did. They did the list. This is the best-selling guitars of 2023, and I'll put a link down below where I got this information on their website. And these are the overall best-selling guitars. I'm going to scroll down real quick so you can see this, but they also did the best-selling new guitars. This would be new transactions only, and then they did the best-selling used guitars. Now, I think this stuff is cool. I think there's a part of us, I'm going to go back to the screens, don't worry, and share. I think there's a part of us that are really curious, like, what did other guitar players buy? Right? Guitar players are definitely a bunch of people that are like very focused on what other guitar players are doing. So let's share what the other guitar players are doing. So first, let's talk about overall. I'm going to be brief on this one. Of course, the #1 selling one was the PRS SE Silver Sky. Now, what's interesting about that is that when you go to new sales, it was also the #1 selling. So it was definitely a hot seller. When you go to used, it dropped to third. And what's important about that is if you're using my logic from last year, that means it's not churning as much. So it could be legit. The Silver Sky is just kicking ass because it sold a lot of new ones, right? But not a ton of used ones, right? Comparatively speaking. So that means, the transactional data, in other words, shows that it's counting one for one. In other words, everyone new sold is new. They don't resell as new again second time. So that's really cool. So I think that really solidifies that the Silver Sky is legit. The Silver Sky SE, I think, has really put itself in a good position. I want to focus on new sales for a second if we can before we get to anything else. Second new sale guitar sold was the American Professional 2. That was really shocking to me because that guitar is basically $1,700, $1,800. So it just tells you where the market's at right now, that the number one selling guitar is $700 and the number two selling guitar is basically $1,700. It's really interesting when you see stuff like that. Then you had the Fender Player Telecaster, which again, this is another $800-$900 guitar, and then the Stratocaster. And of course, seeing the Telecaster surpass the Stratocaster is something that Fender has even said in the past, which is what they notice with younger players. They're not buying Strats. In fact, they're showing more Jazzmasters and Jaguars and Telecasters. So again, something that this data also kind of shows. And you got to understand, Reverb is a huge selling website platform. So this information is really interesting. And then we have the PRS SE Dave Grissom. Now, if you watch my best of 2023, I kind of said that was like the highlight of the year, that guitar. And I actually think it's number 5, but I actually believe that if they had more in stock, it would have definitely climbed the list. I think it could have been potentially beat the Silver Sky SE. I think the Silver Sky SE is a really cool guitar, and I think people really gravitate towards it. And I think the quality is there, and I think that's one of the things that got people excited, is that they are like excited about the quality. But I think the Dave Grissom one is really like the first, like, holy crap, I got to have that kind of guitar, as a less, not a $3,000 crazy guitar that people usually covet. Then after that, it's the American Professional 2 Telecaster. So funny again. This is what's funny. Here's why I'm gonna say this. I don't want to trigger anybody, but I'm going to trigger somebody. I know it. I think it's absolutely interesting when you see that the Stratocaster, expensive $1,800 Stratocaster, outsold the Telecaster. Okay, those are the equal quality guitars, price guitars. But in the lower price category, the Telecaster outsold the Stratocaster. To me, that could imply two things. It could imply that that older players are buying Strats and younger players are buying Telecasters more. The reason being is because obviously when the Player Series guitars, you're going to have, because it's a less expensive guitar than the American Series, you're going to have a lot of younger players buy the lower price guitars. That's just the way guitars have always worked, right? Obviously, everybody, when you start playing guitar when you were a kid, you didn't start with a $2,000 guitar. So you're going to notice, I would say that the fact that the Telecaster outsold the Stratocaster in the lower price category means that, and the Stratocaster outsold the Telecaster in the higher price category, it would definitely imply that older players are buying Strats over Teles and younger players could be buying Teles over Strats. Now, keep in mind, this is just, again, like I always say, water cooler talk. I'm not like stuck to these opinions. I'm just looking at some data, and this is the first time I've looked at these sheets. You guys told me this happened, but I found the data, and this is my first impression of it. So I'm just sharing you what I think. So there you go. Then what's interesting is number 7's a Squire. That makes sense. The 40th anniversary vintage edition Squire, our Telecaster, is great. And again, interesting to see that the Squire Telecaster outperforms the Stratocaster. Even the Jazzmaster Squire outperforms the Stratocaster. And again, that is something that Fender themselves, people at Fender, have said, which is that younger players are definitely gravitating towards Telecaster, Jazzmasters, and Jaguars over Stratocasters. These numbers kind of allude that could be true, right? It just could be. Again. It's funny. I don't know why I'm worried. It's how many people are going to pummel me to death in the comment sections. But it's because, again, sometimes the people perceive this as I'm giving you some kind of hard facts. This isn't hard facts. I'm just pulling this from my ass, just from years of experience looking at the data. What does it feel like? That's what it feels like to me. It feels like younger players are buying Teles over Strats and older players are still buying what they love. Look at me. I'm a perfect example. I own more Strats than Teles. I'm a perfect example of that. These stats. Interesting enough, number 11 was the real Silver Sky, which is cool. And I think that's different than last year because I thought the Silver Sky last year, the core one, outsold the American Professional Strat. So this shows. I really like seeing the SE Hollow Body 2 right here in the 10th spot. That was really cool. Of course, Pure SE Custom 24. Now, what's also interesting about this report is some of you guys may know this. This is a weird part of my life is that I did work in corporate America, and I did do reporting, risk management reporting for a living. And so the reason I'm telling you that is because one thing I think about this data is I don't know when they captured the data. Obviously, it's for 2023 and the year's not over. And since Paul Reed Smith SEs put on 20% the middle of last month, it would be really interesting to see if, did they capture up to a day before they launch, or did they capture it like on November 1st before SEs were really getting blown out like crazy? So it's really interesting. I didn't see where it said where the data was captured from. If anyone did see that, please put it in the comments, and that would help us understand. There you go. And then, of course, again, another PRS SE 2408 in the 19th position. I know I'm not doing these order. I'm just kind of highlighting. Nice to see the Yamaha RevStar was really on the list. And really, really cool. And again, and Squier Affinity Telecaster was last. Interesting. Now, let's go to used real quick. This is what really blew me away, shocked me crazy. Okay, so number one used piece of gear sold in this year was the Les Paul Standard 60s Les Paul Standard. So it's Les Paul, but 60s neck. Interesting, right? Again, when you're looking at used gear, and I read some of their stuff to make sure that this is true, but I think it's true what I'm saying, which is they're just capturing transactional data. In other words, the filter is basically saying, how many times did this particular listing of product, how many transactions acquired, and they're saying that's sales, right? But what's interesting is, like I said, we don't know how many of those guitars were resold, because if it was sold and then somebody bought it and then a month later they list it, the system would see that same guitar, but it would see two transactions, right? So again, in used guitars, what we could be talking about, these are guitars that are not just the best selling. New guitars, I definitely think that's all the best selling stuff. But in used guitars, I don't think it's best selling. I think it's actually the most churned, right? So the most churned looks like they are the Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s, the Fender Player Stratocaster, the PRS SE Silver Sky, right? Which would make sense because they sold a lot of new ones, so there's a lot of used ones going to come back on the market. Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s, right? And again, this is interesting to me because I would have never predicted or guessed this in a million years. I would predict that more players would get rid of their 50s necks before 60s, because usually players don't like chunky neck guitars. Fender Player Telecaster, Fender American Professional Stratocaster, Silver Sky, the core one. So again, really cool stuff. Here's an ESP, EC1000. Really cool. The other thing I was doing when I'm looking at this list was I'm looking for any guitars that may have been viral videos. Sometimes, a YouTuber makes a viral video and it gets like 10 million views or 2 million views or something like that on a certain product. And then I notice like a month or two later after the video, or 5 months after the video, there's tons of used ones out there just because everybody just bought one, right? So I didn't see anything on that list that was interesting. What did you guys think of the list overall? Let me go to the comment sections. What was interesting to me was how much it's the big three. Man, it's really a Fender, Gibson, Paul Reed Smith world, isn't it? I mean, at least according to this data, whether it's used or new, it's definitely that's the guitars. And things that I thought were interesting that we didn't see. So let's talk about that real fast, if you don't mind. What I thought was interesting you didn't see was in the used category, not so much in the new, you didn't see any of the weird, go to Amazon brands or YouTube brands, right? So it tells you like that, because I know, as well as I do, all the YouTube channels really talk about, like, if you were to talk about 10 brands that YouTube talks about a lot, sure, Fender, Gibson, Paul Reed Smith, SE, Squier, Epiphone, for sure, right? For sure, those, every other video. But man, think of all the other brands like and Firefly, right? The fact that you didn't see, Firefly tells you that how much those companies are just not in the realm of the big three. They're just not there. They're not producing the sales as not even close, even with all the internet hype. So even internet hype can't surpass the big three in guitars. So interesting stuff. Okay, so yeah, Models and Trains says I didn't see any Ibanez guitars either. So Models and Trains, just so you guys, thank you for saying that. Let me go to me or do this. In acoustic guitars, best selling guitars overall, the Tim Henson signature, which is a Ibanez guitar. I know it's an acoustic, but there's an Ibanez right there, and I thought that was interesting that it was a hot seller. And it's not a guitar that was on my radar, but it looked cool, and I like Tim Henson a lot. I like his style of playing. I was curious on the. So in the best-selling new, it was Tim Henson again. That's consistent. What about used? But in the best-selling used, where's Tim Henson at? Was he on here? No, he's not even on here. So again, if I was going to give a guess, and this is just my guess, that younger players bought that guitar because generally speaking, younger players don't flip like older players do. In other words, they don't flip the product as much. They buy a guitar and they kind of stick with it. When you're younger, there's younger players that watch the show, and the older players want to remember when you were younger, you tend to buy a guitar and it was a big expense for you, and you just buy it and you kind of hold on to it. So, you're not so just like next week, you're like, I'm not in love with it anymore, ready to move on. So interesting stuff to see. That's something I would predict. Like I would say that makes sense to me, that the Tim Henson did well and that you don't see a whole lot of resales of it. People stuck with it. So, Zanzibar says the Amazon brands don't sell new on Reverb, so it makes sense that they wouldn't be on Reverb. Well, no, we're not talking about that's true, but we're not only talking about the new list. We're talking about the used list. That's my whole point. You would think that the hype system behind selling these guitars, in other words, look, we're all guilty of it. All the guitar players, yes, and then all the YouTube channels, of course. What's the new budget-friendly guitar? Is it AIO? Is it which is in Wolf, or is it Firefly, or is it Enya, or is it ERT, or is it whatever brand is the hot thing? Look at how there was no Harley Benton's on those lists again. So it tells me that it could be possible that people buy those guitars and stick with them, but I don't think that's really the case. I think what it is just even those get hyped up and they sell for a little while, they just don't sell in the same volumes as the bigger companies. Those bigger companies are still just dominating the market. It's just a huge thing. So. All right. Okay. So it's like I said, I thought it was interesting. I hope you guys had some fun with that. And like I said, check out that list when you guys get it later if you're curious. Like I said, it was interesting to see. So, like I said, I don't know if there was any guitars I was shocked to not see on the list. I'm trying to think. If there was anything that really kind of stuck out. Let me see if there's anything that I thought, like on the new list, any hot guitar this year that I'm shocked that I didn't see. No, not really. I mean, I think those are the ones I kind of predicted. Used wise, again, I don't think there's any guitars that I thought were missing from the list that make the data somehow strange or odd. So. Okay. Jay says LP. He said talking about the viewer LP 5369 GT says if it's under a certain price point, it's not really worth selling on Reverb. That's sure, of course. So yeah, that's why I didn't notice when I said all the hype guitars, I didn't say glary, right? I don't foresee a whole lot of people buying a glary guitar and for $70 and then trying to flip it on Reverb for $40. I just don't see that being the case. But Firefly guitars and ER guitars that sell new for $200, $300, $400, they can end up on Reverb. But that's an interesting thing too. It'd be interesting to see if Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace has totally different data in the cheap guitar realm. Interesting stuff. So really cool. There you go. So. All right, let's go to the next thing. Okay, next topic, subject, question. What do we have? We have Antique Rocker says, replacing the pickups in my Telecaster. The neck needs a gold cover. Which StewMax sells? How do I replace the chrome cover on a gold pickup? It's not that hard. There's some neck pickups are slightly different than others. Some have 2 tabs that are bent. Some have 4 tabs that are bent. They're going to look like teeth. You're going to bend them out straight. And then there's usually something soldered, or could be something soldered depending on the type, because you didn't say what which Telecaster pickup you're replacing, right? So they're going to be totally different. And then you essentially just pull it apart. A lot of times there will be some wax in there and stuff, so just be cautious of what you're doing, but it's not super hard to do. So there you go. I'll tell you what. It's one of those things, maybe I can make a quick kind of video short. I have a pickup that I could rip apart and throw it on a phone video and throw it out there for you. That'd be something to cool to do. Maybe when I get up tomorrow morning, I can knock that out. I'm constantly trying to think of videos like this exact thing you're talking about is, would it be interesting? That'd be an interesting video maybe, seeing how I pull off the cover off a Telecaster pickup real fast. And once you watch me do it, it'll be a lot easier for you to kind of reverse engineer, what you just saw. Warren 5 says, what should he take on a trip? That's basically what I got. The Enya Go, which is the Enya acoustic I reviewed, the small one, or the headless guitar, another guitar I reviewed. Which one should he take on a trip? Interesting. Again, I'll tell you what I do, and it might be helpful. I have a Strandberg headless, but I also have a Kiesel Delos, and that's what I take when I travel, the Kiesel Delos. But I also have the Enya Go, and I absolutely love it, and I take that when I travel. So here's what I do when it comes to travel, and travel guitars and travel things. It's how long I'm going to be gone. So the longer I'm gone, the more I want the closest thing to my real rig. So for instance, when I was gone for a week, I went on vacation with my wife. We kind of did our first honeymoon in November, because we never did a honeymoon when we were kids and we got married. Or I should say young adults, because we were like in our 20s. But anyways, we were gone for 8 days. That's the longest vacation I've ever had in my life. So, 8 days. So some people probably won't think that's a big deal. To us, it was like crazy to do a vacation longer than 3-4 days. So I took my headless electric guitar and a small Sparko, and that's because that's more like the rig I would play every day here at the house. But if I was going to go like somewhere for 2 days, 2-3 days or a day, I would take the Enya little acoustic, because it feels good, it sounds good, and it does everything. It gets my playing time in, right? So when I took the headless guitar, I wasn't taking it to get my playing time in and stuff. I brought it because I thought maybe, I might have ideas and a spark of what if I want to write a song or write all kinds of things. As you guys know, I'm working on tracks right now for a small album for the channel, and so stuff like that. So that's what I recommend. I recommend, look at it that way. You take more of a complete rig if you're gone longer, and more of a quick rig if you're going to go short. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Bill did a super chat. I appreciate that. And I go to the next one now. Steve says, Phil, have you seen the new Solo King guitars available at Anderton's yet? Crazy specs for the price. I have not seen those guitars. I remember in November, it seems like, in the last month, I saw something on Instagram where I thought I saw a Pussycat. I thought I saw Lee Anderton going, hey, we have these guitars and they're like really good specs for really cheap. That might be what it is, but that's all I saw. So don't know anything about them. Dan says, why didn't Fender Aerodyne models work this year? Why didn't, seem like the best holiday values out there, should they have more Jags Jazzmasters? The Aerodyne in some iteration has popped up feels like every year. Well, they make it every year, especially in Japan. But I mean, every couple years, it seems like Fender comes out with a different iteration of that bass and guitar. They're all fantastic. But unfortunately, Fender and Gibson, and now probably starting to be Paul Reed Smith, they all suffer from but it's not the old one, and so that's where essentially the Aerodyne stuff comes from. I get Aerodyne, if there's one guitar by Fender that I think comes up on the podcast the most often over the years is, Phil, I'm looking at an Aerodyne, what do you think of it? And I'm always like, well, they make them in Korea, they make them in Japan, they're really, really good guitars. I've always liked the guitars and the basses. I like the way they look, but they've always not sold well because just, when you have a company that's a traditional company where it's what it always was, it's why it's tough for them to do something new, even if that really, if you think about the Aerodyne's probably 30 years old. It's funny when a company's new things are almost considered vintage and people still are like, it's not an old thing, it's a new thing. So so there you go. And then see, look, it's Victoria G says the Aerodynes were hideous in my opinion. Now here's what's funny about that. See, perfect example. But so the Aerodynes were all about this like comfort, more of a sleek look. But again, if you think it's hideous, I don't disagree with you. I actually agree that most people probably think like you, that they're not very cool looking. That's I can tell you when we were a Fender dealer, we would carry a few Aerodyne basses and maybe one or two guitars every couple years, and I don't remember any of them ever not having to be discounted at some point for them to go. So there is a small following that loves that stuff, and probably for a lot of good reasons, because like I said, they look cool. I think they look kind of cool, and I think they play kind of cool, but you know, the average player is not looking for that. They're looking for something more traditional. Thank you, Deborah, for the super chat as well. Grumpy Mike Guitar says, just wanted to wish you and the fam a very happy holiday season. Wondering what's on your Christmas gear wish list. So I shouldn't have a Christmas gear wish list. So, you know, I just shouldn't. But I did. So normally, you know, I don't, but I did. So what's on my gear wish list? I bought a piece of gear. It's technically for Christmas. I guess it would be my Christmas present too, right? I wouldn't say to myself, but it's my Christmas present. What did I buy? I bought it today, so it should be here next week. It is, let's keep you guys in suspense. So I'm trying to pull it up, and then the suspense is going to be fun. So I had trouble sleeping a couple nights ago. Horrible, like horrible. Not even the, you know, I woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't sleep. I couldn't go to sleep. And then it was one of those things where I was laying in bed, and like 5 hours later, I'd realized, like, I still haven't gone to sleep. I'm just laying here. So of course, guess what I did? I hopped up on YouTube and started watching YouTube videos, and I decided I need this. Where is it? And why can't I find it? Here's one. So let me pull one up. Here it is. It is not, the picture's not populating. It's a guitar pick. I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know why. I'm not doing this on purpose. I literally keep clicking on the internet, thing after thing of it, and every time, no picture populates every time. I don't know if I'm having issues because I'm streaming. Let me try another one. Here we go. No. Okay, what if I just go, this is stupid. Let me try EVH. Okay, so not to keep you, in case nothing comes up. I used to have the EVH LBX amp, and here it is. Okay, it's going to pop up this time. I can feel it. Here it is. More details. And go to the web. So interesting enough, I've had, as you guys watch the channel, I had an LBX. I had the very first EVH LBX. I had the second one too, which was the, you know, the second iteration, which had the different channels, the clean and the dirty. And I like them. And I don't know why I've never considered a stealth, because it was a higher gain amp. I didn't need more gain than what the normal one was. But I just got it in my head. I'm like, you know, I kind of like the clean channel on the amp. I kind of like the dirty on the amp. And this is what did it, so you guys know. It's not that it was, you know, a new thought that I thought I wanted it. It was, I just didn't think it was $750 cool. Like, that's a lot of money. And the 50-watt version is $1,500, so it's double. So I was like, I don't need that. I was like, this is kind of really cool. Maybe this would be really cool with my bedroom amp. And of course, I did what I told you guys, and I clicked a bunch of them on Reverb just to see what happened. And within minutes, like literally when I was up at night, I got all these offers. And most of them were 10% off, and one was 15% off. So I got an offer for like $637, and I thought, oh, $637 is better. So what I did in the morning is I sent that to Sweetwater, to my Sweetwater rep, and said, hey, can you match this? And he did it for $635. So $635, and really cool. Steven says he prefers the MT15. I've said this before. I had the MT15. I absolutely love the amp, but cannot play it because it cannot get quiet. And that's what it is for me. This is definitely like I need this to be quiet. And I have a 100-watt Archon head, and even my 100-watt head can get whisper quiet if I want. One of the only complaint I have about the MT-15, well, that's not true because in the video I complained the rubber feet were too short. It's too short feet. The feet are too short. But the biggest complaint I have about the MT-15, look, the quality, the way it sounds, the amount of money it is, and it's literally. And so, that's my complaint. So, on my original LBX head, the first iteration of the EVH LBX, it's also too freaking loud. Like even in the down position wattage, same thing with the MT-15. I want these things, I need them to be quiet because I'm just trying to play at night. And so you barely touch it and they get loud. And so I watched a bunch of amp videos and a ton of people reviewing the LBX Stealth kept saying that it was quiet, that it was like way quieter than the other LBXs. And that's what I was looking for, was kind of like that higher mid gain, high gain sound, but at a lower video. So there you go. So, all right. So that's basically what was on the list, and I decided to do it. I decided to pull the trigger. So it was. I'm hoping it's going to work out. I'll let you guys know. Damon says, "Is there a good way to repaint pickguard and pickup ring plastics?" I'm not a paint person, but I have seen people use the spray paints that are rated for plastic. They make all kinds of paints now that are designed and are considered good for bonding to plastic. So I can imagine you can use those as well. I have not tried them, so I would be no help to you as to say yes, do it or not do it. But I mean, I know when I buy paint, it says like this paint's good for spraying on plastic, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I've seen that, so that's something I can suggest to you. Hopefully somebody in the comment section's done it and can tell you which ones work the best. Tom says, Phil, just got the Spark Go based on your vacation video and recommendation. I learned how to use it, and I really like it a lot. I really like it a lot, too. The Spark Go is really cool. A lot of people keep saying that the Spark Mini sounds better, and I'm like, well, it's bigger. It should sound better. It's a bigger cabinet, bigger, bigger speaker, more features. But the Spark Go, for me, is just legit for the size. Like I said, it's really cool. It's a take it anywhere kind of thing. So, in fact, that was one of the reasons I tried to talk myself out of the LBX Stealth was, I got the Spark Go. I'll just use that and just take it in the room, use that. And I go, but I kind of want to have a dedicated little amp to play there. And I'm just going to tell you, one of the amps that I love that I've had for 7 years now, maybe 8 years, is the Mesa Boogie Mark V Mini 25. And as you guys know, I'm a huge fan. I love that amp. But lately, last couple of years, I just feel like it's too fizzy sometimes. Having trouble dialing a tone I like all the time. And I just remember always liking the EVH a little bit better than that. Maybe thinking that. I don't know. I'm just making excuses. I'm just trying to come up with a reason why I should buy this stupid amp and see what I think of it. Ariella says, for Christmas Eve, wine. Oh, thank you. I love the patron gift and mug. Oh, it's awesome. The mugs I thought were fun. I got to watch Shauna make them. She has this mug maker thing, and she uses different kinds of appliques and stuff, and make the designs and stuff. It was really cool. So there you go. Yes, and so because of you guys, I think it was mostly because of Brian Stewart, but also most of you guys, because my wife actually watches the podcast now. She's in the background watching. When you guys mentioned, are we doing Legos this year? And I said no. Shauna bought Legos. So they bought the flower Legos. Don't know what that is. For those that don't watch the show on the regular, don't know, every Christmas, my kids and my wife build Legos. That's like what they do on Christmas Day. It's like their entertainment. They sit and build Legos, and I sit and I drink wine and not do anything because I usually don't want to do anything. It's like it's a tradition. It started. So you guys, this will probably make sense more so than maybe Phil's got a wine problem on holidays. I used to 13. Obviously for 13 years, that's a long time. For 13 years, I owned the store. I worked every Christmas. I worked every day till Christmas. So into every December, on the 1st of December, I would work every single day, 24 days straight. And then on Christmas Day would be my first day off. And so, yeah, I didn't drink wine back then. I drink wine now, but I would sit there and I would just drink a beer and just sit there. And my wife, Shauna, and the kids would know that I just worked 24 days straight. So they didn't really mind that I didn't want to do anything on Christmas Day. I was pretty useless. I would just sit there. In fact, it was usually, so you guys know, it was very exciting if I didn't have the flu. Because usually by then I always had the flu. Working retail is fun, guys. It's working really, really fun. So it's just a kind of thing. I still just do it now, even though I don't work 24 days straight in Christmas, which is something that's amazing. So, yeah, Mike says, interesting what I said about the Mark V 25. I felt the same way, and he moved on. The Mark V 25 is one of those amps that I just love, and I hate, and then I love, and then I hate, and that's why I've had it now for 7 years. But one of the things that always makes it win for me is like, oh, it's got reverb built in, it's really nice. But ultimately, I always kind of feel like, the EVH always sounded just a little bit, for the high gain stuff, I just liked it a little bit more. And I think the Ingle really kind of set it over. I really like the Ingle way over the Mark V 25, just as my personal opinions. And so I was like, well, I'll just use my Mark V 25, but I have it set up in my rack for videos and stuff. As you guys know, I use it a lot in the videos. So I want this stealth, not for YouTube videos. I want a personal amp. So Paul wants to know if Phil, do you still have a Blackstar HT1 for the quiet practice amp? I don't. That amp I got rid of a long time ago, a couple years ago. And the main reason, as much as I liked it, the reason I got rid of it is because of the Mark V, they're almost the same size. So to me, the Mark V 25 was like, it's the same. If you guys probably don't think so, but they're almost the exact same size as an amplifier. And keep in mind, the Mark V 25 is 25 watts. You can literally gig with it. It had more features, and I kind of felt like, I don't really need two of these. I'll just use the Mark V. And I really like the Mark V, and I'm not looking to get rid of it. But like I said, I feel like the last few months, most this year, when I play the Mark V 25, I'm just not finding a sound that I'm as happy with. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I used to play it a lot more than I did. I used to play it a lot more, last year and the years before. And now I play the Ingle and the Archon so much for high gain that when I go to the Mark V, it's just a lot fizzier than those amps. And I think the EVH, even though it's fizzy, won't be as fizzy. That's just my logic. Again, I'll let you guys know, but I'm probably totally wrong. I'll probably get the stealth and be like, this is dumb. The Mark V is better. So, Dave says, I know we're getting off subject, but it's kind of fun talk for me, if you don't mind. Dave says, I like the Rectiver 25 head. I have the Rectiver 25. I absolutely love it. Again, I like to point out that as much as I like the Rectiver 25 a whole lot, but I cannot get it super quiet without pedals. I remember, I'm not using pedals. Next to my bed, okay, I have a narrow walkway. I don't know how wide it is. It's wide enough to where I can put an amp there, so it's not that narrow. But if I put a pedal board in front of it, if I got up in the middle of the night to pee, I'd be like stepping on Legos. So I don't put anything next to and I want an amp next to my bed because what happens is before I go to bed, sometimes I just want to sit and play guitar for 15 minutes or 20 minutes and just kind of decompress. And if I go in these rooms when I'm supposed to go to bed, then next thing I know, I'm editing or I'm working on content, or I'm like, oh, I didn't unbox that thing I got to review. You guys hear this a lot. I see a lot of YouTubers talk just like me. Same thing. You're always behind on something you owe somebody. And, so you got to get the hell away from this stuff, So, but yeah, I still like the Blackstar HTR1. I think it's one of my favorites, still one of my favorite amps out there especially for the price. It's killer. Remember, stuff is just, you can't own everything. Where would you put it? It's a George Carlin joke, right? You can't have everything. Where would you put it? Oh no, that's Stephen Wright. I'm jacking up that joke. Okay, I apologize. Thank you, Vim69, for the holiday cheers. Let's see what Amanda has thrown my way over here. Ones and zeros says, Phil, could you recommend a good clean cleaner to remove green tarnish from a 57 classic Angus signature Buckers in my 2005 Angus Young signature. What is it? Green tarnish. On your pickup. I used to use all kinds of stuff, on prior service. So of course I think Brasso is like great, but don't take that advice. There's all kinds of stuff I've used in the past, so but I'm going to tell you what I use now. And I don't know if it's going to work for you. So I can't say, yes, this will definitely do it, but it's absolutely what I use and I love it. And I can't find it, but I'm going to share it with you in 1 second because I'm going to mess up the name if I don't find it. Okay. Nope. Scrolling. Here, I'll just let you guys see what I'm scrolling through. I'm looking for a Music Nomad product, so you guys know. It's a material, it's a cleaner it's like a paste, and it works really good. And here's why I like it. You can use it on anything. And that's it, the Fine Fret Polish. Is that what it is? Care system. No, this is it. What is this? Is it just the guitar polish? That's right. That's what throws me off, because they don't call their spray stuff polish, right? So I use this stuff, the guitar Guitar One all-in-one cleaner. I use this spray to do the guitar bodies, but I use the guitar polish for exactly what you're talking about, cleaning the pickups, chrome covers and stuff. So it's this stuff. It's not the F1 oil. It's the guitar polish. I don't see it, but I just showed it to you. I don't see it individually. And so just so you guys know, a couple years ago, American Musical Supply asked me if I would do a video of Music Nomad products. And I said, sure, of course, I'll do that video. And they sent me, and I have that video to this day if you see that video up. They sent me an entire thing of Music Nomad products. And that isn't interesting because, YouTubers get crap sent to them and they do videos. But I liked, not everything in that video, but I liked 90% of the stuff, right? So, so much that I've continually bought it since then. And that's the stuff I use. The Music Nomad guitar polish, the all-in-one spray, I use that. That's all I use. I use I use that Music Nomad guitar polish. That it's like a gray paste. Oh, I use that to clean chrome. And here's why. I used all that stuff. I tested it heavily before I made the video, as I always do. And then because I have this, YouTube creation, content channel, I was able to talk to the people at Music Nomad about products, and I'd ask them questions like, can I use it on this? Will it do this and there? And one of the things they told me with that guitar polish is I could put it on the wood even. It didn't matter. Just put it on anything. I don't care. Because I'd be like, well, because again, what I was asking was, asking very detailed questions like, what things should I stay away from? And that stuff works great. And so I recommend it. If you use it, here's the good news about it. If you buy that stuff and you use it, it doesn't clean off all the green off the pickups. What I will tell you is then, you'll have to keep finding something, but that stuff will work for 90 other things that are great on your guitar. So you might as well have it around. But I really like the Music Nomad stuff. And I like to point this out because I'm not trying to be a jerk, but Music Nomad doesn't want to sponsor any of my videos. So I still promote them like crazy, right? We've reached out to them about the fact that I'm always talking about them like this. And I'm like, it just makes sense, right? If you're going to praise product, let's get them on the channel and promote. So we reached out to them and saying, hey, look, we'd like to talk about it in the video and stuff. And they're like, nah, they're not interested for that. But I'll still continue to promote good product. Like I said, if I like something, we'll talk about it whether a company sponsors the channel or not. I'm not telling you that. So I'm not telling you that so you have a negative thing because I'm saying they're not sponsoring. What I'm telling you is I want you to know how much I really care about their product, that I'm saying that, even though other companies would send us free stuff or pay us if we use their cleaning products for sure. And I just, that's why I said I was hoping it would be Music Nomad because I already use their stuff. But I'd rather tell you, to use the stuff I use than just say, hey, this company sends me free stuff. Let's just talk about this stuff. So, and then Unforgivable says F1 oil is great. I love like all that stuff. It's great. And so another product I really like is Lizard Spit as well. That's what I used before them, and I thought it was just as quality as well. But it's kind of one of those things. Like once I got all the Music Nomad stuff, I just kept using it and I liked it. So, there you go. And I can tell you right now, if I ever talk about a product besides Music Nomad for those cleaning stuff, it's just because it's better. So, all right. We'll see if that ever happens. By the way, but you could sponsor the channel so you guys know if you use any of my affiliate links with Sweetwater and you buy your Music Nomad from Sweetwater will kick back millions of dollars to the channel. So, you know what I mean? They'll kick back some money, which is good. So that's kind of a sponsor. That's really cool. So there you go. All right. Fret Live My Midnight says I only use F1 oil on my fretboards. That's all I use too is F1 oil. I use the only exception, so I still have it up. Let me just show you. The only exception to music, I'll just tell, let's do this for fun. We've never done this before. Let me go through this since I'm on the Sweetwater site. Let me tell you what I like and don't like from Music Nomad. I use their mat all the time. I really like it. And this is important. I got to go back to me for a second. I want you to understand. I am no different than anyone else. I'm just, right? What I mean by that is just because I like something or don't like something, I don't want you to filter that as like, oh, Phil doesn't like it and I like it. If you like it, you found a use for it. That means it's good for you. Okay. So when I like stuff or like stuff, it just means when I'm saying the same thing, I found a use for me. So I like their mat. I use it a lot. It's in 90% of the videos. I do not like their Music Nomad Cradle Cube. I don't use it. So, my wife Shauna, when she works on guitars, because she still works on guitars, she helps me. She'll restring guitars, work on them. Remember, she can do anything I can do pretty much when it comes to basic setups and stuff. She uses it. I do not like it. It just doesn't work for me. If you want to know why I don't like it, the thing that makes it cool, the fact that you can put it on its side is cool, the rubber. What I find is that sometimes when I'm moving the guitar around, it doesn't want to move, it sticks, and then I feel like it's throwing the guitar sideways. I probably could do a video about it, but it's quality. I just don't prefer it. I prefer the old school ones that you see me using the video. Their precision setup gauge set, they did send me a set of this. And so, they did say that was one video they would sponsor. They were like, hey, if you want to do a video about that. And I've told you guys this a million times before. It's probably a great thing if you've never set up guitars and you want to learn to set up guitars. If you get that kit and you watch their videos, I think you would be set. I think you will be a master at setting up your guitars. But as someone who's been fixing and repairing guitars for 20 years, this is so unintuitive to me to do it this way. This is not how I kind of come at it. I saw the Matt at Texas Toast say he doesn't like filler gauges. I find myself the same way. It's just not what I use, the filler gauges. It's not how I do things. So, but it's a cool set. I just don't use it. Maybe one day I'll do a video. I don't know. There you go. The nut slot files. These are really, really good. These took a little while, as I told you guys. They're so different than the ones I've been using for 20 years. But I would almost recommend these over most nut slot files for anybody out there that is not been doing it for 20 years, because you won't notice what's weird about them. And I don't want to make you self-conscious and like, what am I not noticing what's weird about it? You won't. It's just it's a different feeling and looking and tool than traditional nut slot files, but they work fantastic. I highly recommend them. Obviously, I like the Music Nomad humidifier, the Humiditar. I did a video about that too. I'm not a huge fan of the fret guards, but they're pretty cool. The reason is because I have the regular traditional fret guards, just used to them, but these are really cool. Love their F1 oil. Highly recommend it. The Music Nomad Grip One all-in-one string winder and cutter and puller. This thing, what I love about it is this is probably the best. I'm pointing at it right now. The way it spins, it's probably the best. Like the way it feels, it's effortless. It's really cool. No friction. It's a fantastic product. This Music Nomad Premium Guitar Truss Rod wrench set. This is a must-have for like the hobbyist repair person. Like this is so you know, this in combination. If you don't know, I know it's $60 for basic Allen wrenches, and I get that, okay? But having it in a little kit is really nice. But what's more important, and I've told you guys this before, is for absolutely free, you can go to Music Nomad's website, go to their resources tab, and on there it will tell you which one of these wrenches in this kit, which is basically every wrench pretty much, which one of these fits what kind of guitar. And it's every kind of guitar. So it's like Charvel made in Mexico, made in, Japan, made in USA. It's Gretsch, it's Godin. It's like every brand of guitar will tell you what wrench or what adjustment tool you need for their truss rod, and then it's in this kit. I'd say within 90-something%. I mean, so it's really cool. And then we'll just quickly go through the rest. Obviously, I love their string action gauge. I like it so much that I buy them in bulk from Sweetwater, and we give them to premiums members when they join us on. When they pay for the year for the $25, the highest tier, when you pay that crazy tier, we give you one of those and with some other stuff because I love it. The Music Nomad Premium Symbol, I don't know anything about that. This stuff, this all-in-one stuff cleaner, I not only use it, I buy it in the giant big bottle like this. And if you watch any of my videos, there's 2 bottles of it. And it's because when I buy new bottles, I just take the other half of the new bottle and put in the old one because I wish they would just send us a refill thing for it. I just hate the idea of throwing the old squirt bottle away. So there you go. And then the Music Nomad tool set, this thing, I have it. It's cool. I like the brush. It's cool. But I mean, I could get a nice paintbrush anywhere. And then what else? Is there anything else that I highly recommend on here? I do have these fret shields. I have not used them yet. So I'll let you know when I think of those. I have fret shields that I've been using for years that someone custom made me. So we'll try that. This Music Nomad Tune It lubricant for your nut. I like it. The quality is fine, but I still use the Lubra kit by Dimarzio, which comes in a syringe, and I use it because I like the syringe over there. It's the way it's the application aspect of it. It's not so much for all I know, it's the same stuff. Right? I couldn't tell you if there was any quality difference in the lubricant of it, but I like the applicator of the Lubra kit. And then so you guys know, I currently have the Music Nomad fret in dress file, and I am releasing a video this week to my patrons only first, comparing it to my absolute go-to fret in dress file, the Music Nomad. I'm going to compare the two and show everyone what it is I like about those two. And then what will happen with that is it won't go on the main channel. If it goes out, it will go on the second channel. I'll announce it here. Or you can, if you're a patron, you can see it as a patron. But like I said, if you don't want to be a patron, that's fine. I tend to take stuff that I put on Patreon over time and release it on the second channel if it's made specific for that. I know that was a little tirade, but I thought maybe that's fun. I don't know. I've never done that before. Models and Train says, can you recommend any scratch and swirl removers? I use the 3 different scratch and swirl removers from Stu Mac. There are probably, like, if there's car guys or people who do finish work, there's probably better stuff out there. I have no idea. I literally, like, when I was repairing guitars for years, I just needed some, so I was like, and a lot of times on Stu Mac, I was just constantly trying to figure out how to, like, oh no, I need a file, and it's $9 for the file, and it's $20 for shipping, and I was like, I gotta throw some other stuff on there. So I would try random things on Stu Mac, and if you see my video, every video, you see the shop, you see those white bottles. That's what that is, the swirl removers. There's different kinds. I have all the different levels. There's like a fine, a medium, and a heavy scratch swirl remover from Stu Mac. And because I don't do a ton of finish work, I'm always doing spot repair for finish if I'm working on guitar. Those bottles are, like, one of them is like 10 years old. That's it. So I've been using it for that long. It doesn't seem to go bad. It seems to keep working. So there you go. So, all right. But like I said, some people out there might, might know. All right. Let's, how are we doing on time? We're almost about to button it up. Let's see. Let me know in the comments if you like me going through a list. That'd be fun, I think, going through stuff and just telling you what I like and don't like about a line of products. I don't know if it'd be fun or not. Maybe it will. New Mexico Saint says, hey, Phil, is there any drawbacks to a nut that has slots wider than the string if the slot depth is cut to right? Yes, the drawbacks could be, and what I mean by that is I'm going to tell you what the drawbacks are, but if it's not happening, then it's not a drawback. You will get a sitar effect. The string will rattle inside there, and that's where sometimes you get that weird sitar sound, like that weird ringing, because it's actually hitting the sides. And so that's a thing you have to pay attention to. Other than that, I mean, no. If the slots are cut to the right depth, but the widths are a little wider. And so, I've actually worked on guitars. I don't own any guitars that have this problem, but I've worked on guitars where sometimes the slots were like twice the width. I mean, just huge, like something weird, right? As the strings were in there and the guitar sounded fine. Part of that problem is alleviated with a lot of downward pressure if the headstock has an angle at the end. So in other words, if the string goes through the nut, the slot's a little wide, but then it's being pulled down so that the string's being pulled into that slot like this, down really hard, like so, see, like this, then you don't have that problem. But where it really becomes a problem is like with a Fender headstock, where the string's kind of going straight through the nut slot and then going straight to the tuning key, and there's not a lot of downward pressure, and then it'll start making that weird sitar kind of sound. So that's one of the problems if it's too wide. But if it's not doing that to you, then who cares? So, like I said, Lee Asbury says, Phil, have you tried this Fret StewMac Kisser? Lee, yes, I have tried it. I'm the reason why it was out of stock for 6 months. I didn't mean to do that, by the way. Let's see if I could check to see. I was told by Brock, I think he's the CEO or CFO of StewMac, that they're back in stock now. Because you guys, I get so many emails for months about this Fret Kisser. That, hey, when's it coming back in stock? When's it coming back in stock? No, it's considered email when available. So here's the good news, bad news thing. So they sent me one of these things. I had never used it. Okay. They sent me one of these things, and then, I was like, oh, I should use it, and it for months went by. In fact, I thought they were going to get irritated, like, because I hadn't made a video or done anything with it. And so like months and months and months and go by, but I had no reason to use it. I couldn't make up a reason. And when I did a video of that Enya acoustic, it had one high fret, and it was seated in correctly. And I was like, oh, the Fret Kisser. So I did a demonstration of that as a tech tip. Like, here's how you do it. And of course, here's how I show you how you make a Fret Kisser real quick with your regular fret rocker. That video has 1 million views in like 5 months. Like in 5, it's like not quite 1 million. It's like 980,000 views. And so obviously when you get 1 million views on a product like that, it's gone. So, so yeah, but I did talk to him, and he said they will be in soon. And so be prepared for them to be in soon. So, and I think it said on their thing, where it says email when available. I would do that. So, because he literally said, and so, I'm pretty sure they got in stock just a few weeks ago, because he sent me a thing. But I think that, again, that video is going to just keep pumping. Once a video, if as a YouTuber, once you get a video that does like 1 million views or close to it, they tend to pump for a while. It'll probably do 10,000 or 20,000 views for the next 2 years, which isn't a whole lot of views, but in our community, that's a lot of views. That's like me putting out a 20,000 video on a tool every month, that same tool. So it's gonna do that. Brian says $118, seriously? Yeah. I mean, look, man, no one's ever said the stuff is cheap. the StewMac stuff, the number one complaint about StewMac is how either it's expensive or the term is overpriced. They say they're overpriced. And I'll never say that that's not accurate. I feel the same way. Like I said, I think I told you this. My wife has not cared about a single damn thing that's ever happened on YouTube when it comes to positive or negative. Like if a company sent me a pedal or something, she's like, I don't care. But the day StewMac reached out and said, hey, can we work with you on some content? She was like, call them back. She's like, I would love to not see those StewMac bills, because she thought, I could work on an agreement where they send me tools. I don't have to, buy them every month like I was. So yeah, they're expensive, man. The one thing people don't say is they're crap. So that's the one thing that's nice about StewMac. The prices are crazy expensive, but it's not crap. And if you ever have a problem, you can contact them. And if you don't know this, I tell you guys this all the time, so you know. If you ever have a problem with any StewMac product, please contact them. They will most likely replace it. So there you go. They're pretty on it. So yeah, lifetime replacement. I've never heard so far. I haven't heard anybody say contrary to that. I've never had a problem getting anything replaced. So you just reach out and tell them the problem. They're always on it. So that's part of the thing you have to pay for too. They're guaranteeing it for life and they take care of you. So obviously it's baked into the price is what I'm trying to say. Okay. It's like, they're not doing it because you're like, yeah, it's my old local StewMac. He always takes care of me. It's no, man, we're going to charge you top tier pricing, but we'll never give you grief. Yeah. Right. My analogy that I like is, Starbucks coffee. The first time I ever got a Starbucks coffee, I thought, what the hell is this? This is like 5 times more expensive than, the Circle K coffee. And then after my 3rd time or 4th time going, I was walking in my car and I dropped the coffee, and I went back in the Starbucks, and I said, hey, I need to buy a coffee, and they go, no problem. And I go, yeah, coffee, venti, whatever, cream, and they go, okay, half and half. And I go, cool. I go, yeah, I dropped mine on the parking lot, and they go, oh, here you go, it's free. And I go, oh no, I dropped it on the parking lot. I'm like, yeah, it's free. And so I don't know if that's their shtick, but I was like, after that, I started thinking of their prices differently. And that's how I think of StewMac too. It was like, no headache's a nice feature too. So give them credit for that. But yeah, their stuff is expensive. Okay. All right. And then all right, here's a fun one. We're not going to end on this one, but I was sort of Tony G came early, which is funny, and he put an early question. And the question was, Phil, can you grow a beard? Yeah, actually, ironically, Tony, I haven't shaved in like a week or two, and it's coming in nicely. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I can. When I was younger, probably not so much. Like long time ago, but as an old man, yeah, this stuff grows insanely. I would do anything with my look where it's just I'm shaved all the time. I would love it if nothing grew in, but all my hair and my beard grows fast every damn day. So I have to shave all the time to keep this boyish demeanor look, whatever you call it. So, all right. So, Brian wants to know, Phil, do you see Magnetones making a 12-watt baby M80? Will you try one? I don't have any, like, it's not on my radar to try. One of those things, kind of one of those things, if you guys suggested enough. I know, obviously, with Slash doing their stuff, it might be cool. I don't know. It's not on my radar. I'm really, really, for Marshall stuff, I really like my Friedman. So, personally, for me, I feel fulfilled. So... All right. Joe Paradise says, hey, cheapo Bigsby type is pulling the tailpiece posts out of my cheapo Les Paul. Any recommendations? Yeah, I have a video on a couple ways to fix that. There's a couple things you can do when the posts kind of start pulling out of the wood like that. One of the things I suggested in my video was kind of like a paper mache technique where you take some newspaper, which is a very old-timey thing to say now. You take some newspaper, and I use Elmer's glue, or you can use Elmer's wood glue, and you just kind of get it like, come on, everybody's done paper mache, right? And then I just wrap that one piece, very thin, wet, around the post and squeeze it and kind of just push it in. And sometimes that works as well, just to kind of fill that gap. You can also use, some people will tell you to use like nylon plumber's tape. That'll work too. Sure, of course. The main thing you got to make sure is that when you're fixing those posts, if there is a ground wire touching one of those posts, you want to make sure. And again, we're not confusing the threaded part that goes into the insert. We're actually talking about the insert itself is coming out. That's what I'm getting from his problem. So the insert, you want to make sure if they are grounding to that insert that ground is not broken, because all of a sudden you're going to hear a hum on your guitar if that's broken. But yeah, you just want to fill it up. If it's light enough, in other words, if it's not pulling straight out, in other words, it takes a little while, you can just even use some wood glue. I just tell everybody, stay away from epoxies and super glues as much as you can. To me, epoxy and super glue, is the last thing. I know the wood glues don't bond to the metal, but all you're trying to do is fill in the gap for compression. You're trying to just get it compressed. So sometimes that's enough to do that. And what's great about the wood glues is when you make a mess, when you make a problem, or if it doesn't work, it's easy to remove and start over again. So that's where I would always start. Okay. And so I even had a viewer once say, I tried what you said about one glue once on another suggestion and it didn't work. And then I use epoxy and it works. And I said, yes, but you did the right order, right? Because if it would have worked without, if the wood glue would have worked, you wouldn't have had to go through the epoxy process. And that's what you want to try to avoid, is stuff like that. I see everything twice says, hey, Phil, new amp day. Just got a Freeman Little Sister. It's a fantastic amp. Trying to find a good speaker for it, trying to find a good speaker for my 112 cab to go with. Any suggestions? I would highly, highly recommend the Creamback Selection Creamback speaker 16 ohm, or you can do 8 ohm, okay, with that amp. Obviously, either one's fine. But the actual Friedman cabinets have a 16 ohm Creamback. So I see everything twice. I don't know where you live in the world, but I'm assuming since it's US dollars, you live in the United States. Before I said screw it and I just pulled the trigger, and I told you guys this a million times now, I have, I don't know why I'm looking at them because you guys can't see them, but all I have now is the 112 Friedman cabinets for 112s. Well, not I want to say all I have, but I have 3 of them. I love them. And they all have that Creamback. Before I did that, I bought a Creamback from Sweetwater, which is a Creamback 16 ohm speaker, and I put that in my other cabinet, and I was like, I loved it. I love it so much, I go, I'm going to buy the Friedmans, and that's what I got. The reason I'm telling you that story is I have one. It's in perfect condition. It's broken in because I broke it in, and I have the selection box that it comes in to ship. If you message me, I'll sell it to you. I'll just, you just tell me what they go for. I can't imagine new. They've got to be what, $100, $25, like. It's probably like $50 or whatever it is, and then shipping, whatever. It'll be a deal, okay? Whatever it is, it's just because it's literally sitting in a box downstairs in my shop, and it's doing nobody any good. So I highly recommend that speaker, and like I said, I'll sell it to you to a point where even if you hate it, which I don't think you will, you'll be able to get out of it too. Sell on your local Craigslist. But again, it will also depend on your shipping, where you're at, because if it costs a lot to ship it. But I have a box for it and everything. And I highly recommend that speaker. It's what I'm using for everything. So, yeah, Deborah says Creambacks are all I play. For years on this channel, you heard me say vintage 30s, vintage 30s, vintage 30s. And I do have vintage 30s in my 212 cabinets, and I like them. But for some reason, the Creamback, I just love how articulate the high-end frequencies are when I hit chords, and I like how they thump. I just like them. So, there you go. All right. That's it. I think we did it. We've solved all of the world's problems and some guitar problems as well. So hope you guys have an amazing weekend. We'll have a show next week as well. We have a couple videos coming out this week, which I'm pretty excited about, including a cool builder one. So you guys know, I finally started. Oh, it's out of frame. Oh no, it's on the wall. I was gonna say their Texas Toast guitar was on that wall, but it's not there right now because I'm prepping for video. The Texas Toast video is supposed to be September, January 1st is what I think it's slotted for. Of course, things happen. It might get pushed back a few days or a week or whatever, but that's what I slotted it for. So for those of you curious about that guitar video, I'm having that coming soon. As always, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for everything you guys do. And on that note,
The Know Your Gear podcast.